Time has come. Bo tu den de de jin she ban da jong ba yang da bar zo be sang ge ri ba da sha zu den ba de or she ban ji den kem ba ge bu du e ka lo gyur ba da na me ba da me nam ge dam ba sang ge jong de de be ge wa sha ya tu ba la cha za lo cha do ja zo she o tu mo jong de jin she ba da jong ba Yanda bara zobe sange riba na shazu zembo devara shewa chiti kemba kiu dube kalu gyurva lana mepa lana minange tamba sange jamde bejewa shakya dubala chadelo shado jazo tamba chonde de shin sheba rajomba yanda bara zobe sange riba na shazu Devara sheba jide jemba gewu duwe kalu yirva lana meba lana minange damba sange jomde deve kewa shakya zuba la chodam chodo aja zoje Ode gane zo kyo tamze sa shen de la gomba dum burne Mane jiten de na choje zon de de keba kyo la de lo nanda kuma chodo zazan wa ishi kya so sergi humbo ra Chaba jiten samna la me o humbo kyunye kyo la sha chalo Sencho denpa jime da we sha Zedon rawa kyo la sha chalo Dunja kyunja siva suma ji Nyame kinchin kyula jata Gombo tuje chedempa Tamje kempe tombo bo Sonam yunde gyatso shin Deshin shela cha Tabe döja jawar gyur gewe nyezon le choji Chidu döndan şu gürba şi gürü şöla jasa Rone trove lan yandın laban dalar döne Şinge damba yündende gündün ayan çasa Deva jiyan beja şin kewa kuntun sobar Rangi seni yansıdı nene sanki tembayım Karma rabri marmedan gyuma seva çuhurdam Milan lodan tentabın deşe şönan de tarıta Sonan de tamce sevayi koban tonu göngen radı Gadanadan shive lapshuve sive solim roa sho. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Rata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner of the vast glory, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, three worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one God, the thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a frame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the four faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Jula cha zelo nige dage soba dishi na jomdende gyabu ka jabu kumbur longe longe gindu chenpo dan jonju sembe gindu chenpo dan ta jidu jude de se jomdende zamo na wa shi jawe chuje namgan rin tinge zen lan yombar shu zo yan de se jonju semba semba chenpo baba chine se wanchu sheragi paru tu chenpo samu cheba shila nambar tajin gombo nga po te dalaya rajin ge tongbar nambar tao sangye ge tu se dan denpa shari bu chanchu sempa sempa chenpo baba chine se wanchu la tike cheme so rige bu gana la sheragi paru tu chenpo samu cheba cheba teba de jitar la par cha teke te Chanju Zemba Zemba Jumbo Baba Chire Se Wancho Gi Sedan Demba Sharada De Bula De Ge Me So Rigi Bu Rigi Bu An Rigi Bu Mo Gala La Shere Ge Paro De Jemba Zama Cheba Choba Teba Di Tidar Nambar Tawar Jate Deda La Yang Rashi Ge Dombar Nambar Yanda Bar Jesu Tao Zo Domba O Domba Ni Zo Zo So Le Domba Ni Shemayin Domba Ni Le Gyan Su Shemayin Non De Yin Do Sarwa Dan De She Dan De She Dan Nambar Sheba Na Domba O Sharibu Deda Chu Dan Je Domba Ni De Sini Me Ba Ma Ga Ma Ga Ba Chi Ma Me Ba Chi Ma Dan Shawa Shiwa Me Ba Dan Wa Me Ba Wu Sharibu Deda Wena Domba Ni La Su Me Sorwa Me De She Me De Che Me Nambar Sheba Me Na Wa Me Na Me She Me Lu Me Yi Me Su Me Ja Me Ri Me Ro Me Tre Ja Me Jo Me Do Me Gi Ga Me Ba Ne Yi Ga Me Number shape come give bardu yame no mari pa se pa me pane kaji me kaji sebe bardu yame don te jindu don wa dan kunju wa dan ko pa dan lame yi shi me to pa me ma do pa yame do shari pu de da we na jan ju sen pa na to pa me be shir shira ge bardu jen pa la ten ten ne de sam la te pa me ji cha pa me de je de lo de shin du de ne nyang le de be tar chin dun du zong du nam ba shu be sang ye dang je gyang je ra ge pa ru du jin pa la ten ne la na me ma yang da bar zo be chang ju du mo bar zo bar sang ge zo de da we je ra ge pa ru du chin be nga ri ba chin du nga la na me be nga me nyam ba da nyam be nga dong me tam je ra du shi bar shi be nga mi zu be na de ba shi ba sha de shi ra ge pa ru du chin be nga me ba aya ta ga de para sang ga de bu de so Share bu jangu samba samba jambo de da shir ge paru du jamba la 어도 되네 좀 되네 되게 되네 되네 전주선바 선바 정보 바바 진르즈 원줄라 레도 제자와 제네 레도 레도 리게 후 데데 진노 데데 진데 제다라 주제 temba 신도 셔라게 바르도 점바 삼몰라 제발자 데데 진자와 남견 제도 이랑 오좀 데게 데게 제가 셀네 세단 temba 샤다다 데보던 전주 선바 선바 중 바바 제베 제완주 단데베 고르 데다당 파당 미당 라마인 상지 서치베 지데 예란데 점데 데게 sombalang Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhyan, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "How should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhyan?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, "O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhyan should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold of the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Ayata, Kate, Kate, Parakate, Parasangate, Buddhiso. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. Gambhyan should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom Gambhyan.
Oye, tan ada na jutinda, sai maga na jutinda sa. So dan dan na jutinda sa de. Kama so ko bolu to suma si se ba na mige wa de tunge ku 대신 얘도 탐제도 얘를 때도 탐제 때 떼와고도 야단에 있다. 간다. 난 주로 좋으시나. 나가 나서 오케이. 다 구글을 좀 만나 신체나 나도 이번 미디어 왔다. 아니 개와스 이제 아니 미국의 제보디 동해제 예외 제보디 대화스 건 한번에 봐 대세 짱마짱냐 수행 송신도 계속
The lesson in the Dharma on Sundays resumes here now, and we begin with the illustrious Nagarjuna, who elucidated how it is from non-virtues come every last pain, and from virtues perfect well-being. Just as Nagarjuna has made so clear, there are these two, virtues and non-virtues. The result, consequence of non-virtue are pains. The result, consequence of virtues are well-being. And this is made perfectly clear.
어이 근데 인도 상관한도 안달다 동해다 대화스니까 안제 거기 그 개와 주바 있는 제부 대화 그 미개와 주바 있는 제부 동해스 하고 안달 공부를 저기 그런 게 자간에도 시험에 또 송와 인도 대단한 아주 당하랑도 미세 수수고 니만이 냠래나와 다 수수고 내가 가르쳐 있는 개와 지투와 있는 아니 상가 대화 소리야 당기 니만이 미세나 제부 그게 주티고 제바이나 아니 제부 동의 후유바디 다 갖다 고춘이 차대요. 그래서
So it is then, these are indicated, pain and pleasure. Pleasure as the result and consequence of virtues. Pain is the result and consequence of non-virtue. And Nagarjuna saw all and indicated it is so. And each of us in our lives, in our daily practice, insofar as we do further virtue, find the consequence in our experience of contentment. And when it is the case that we are not virtuous and engage in non-virtues, then the experience of pain that results comes naturally so.
어이 우리 이제 좀 당하랑 또 미세나가 그 개와 두고래 유티버디 방고래 사냐면 이게 하고 두고 요래 그래서 이제 좀 당하랑 또 그거가 레기 남샤스게 지난 하산 동반지 남샤래 레기를 남샤 하산 야쳐 사바 어떻게 차려 그래서 내 사버들도 만족이 무유 말 고유로 그냥 먼저 원도 유튜브 말에 고유인데 먼저 원도 유튜브 말에 이나야 다 하다를 직사제 수백의 롱 아니지 펜디터도 수백다 공부를 하시니 아니 맞아 로전체 로전체 때는 내가 안 좋다 즉 되게 수많은 신이 제일 예외 줘라 라투야 이게 저한테 빵투야 근데 그 다음에 돈을 맞았어 이만 냐면 자꾸 요래 손
Then it is for us in our lives for us to adopt virtues and to reject non-virtues. And that rejection of non-virtues is the very beginning of dharma. Karmic causality, the accumulation of karmas, is compared to emptiness much more profound and deep, the comprehension of it requiring much greater breadth. Karmic causality is to us mostly hidden phenomena. We are not able to see and observe the workings directly. We rely upon the Buddha's scripture and the commentary of the pundits. And this is our support, and we study this. And so it is said then that we would adopt virtues and reject non-virtues, and each day then, this precisely is what we would do.
근데 이제 좀 말한도 딱 하다 레 미개와 제외기 레 그것들 이만 말한도 고승부 제바디 미개와 제바 니모 온도 쇼 아니 미개와 제발을 때네 그런 것들다 이거 동해 용거를 써야겠다. 동해 용거에 이제저디 아니 가다 내 미개와 되게 왕기 아니 그 다가다 되게 봐 치만이야 손을 펴봐 쳐야 가가 아니 내 미개와 지기요 아니 내 손을 깨버 쳐 손을 깨잖아 아니 동해 배 하자는 잡고 요르고 이제 용고 요르 세다다 동해 되게 용 먹어야 다는 또내 미개와 온 거다 가다 탐방에 손 펴기래 손을 펴자니 동해 옛날 같이로 하고 어떻게 되래 손
Non-virtues accumulated daily, physically, verbally, and mentally. These non-virtuous karmas, which arise by the force of afflicted minds, themselves cause their consequence pain. This is the reason then we acknowledge that, propelled by non-virtuous karmas, births are precipitated in hells. When a birth occurs for us in hell, then immediately we experience the repercussion in intolerable pain in hell. Then non-virtuous karmas propel us into hell. There we experience the painful consequences.
le migyo smedi ta le migyo sri zamba ta le migyo na ta rig mangbo shujo ga le phanga shuk chi jung ani ta mangbo yo ta le ta na ma ta le gyewa ta migyo wa ni che ta wa che yo ta le migyo wa ti ge bu dungye re te gyewa dungye nyong sa ge lu de ka phang ge sa nge song la ki ge nge song ke na dungye de nyong ge se chik se ta le gyewa de la ya ma gyewa le gyewa de la ya le togatele nalo na se niche le sajegile ane samegile ste ure esumus
Non-virtuous karmas are of many kinds, depending on intensity. For instance, we've already distinguished between overall two forms of karmas, virtuous karmas and non-virtuous karmas. Those non-virtuous karmas, with their consequence pain, project the physical body into hell. So that for the non-virtuous karmas. Regarding virtuous karmas, these two are two kinds: contaminated virtuous karmas and uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
뭐 le sajedigi 내가 들고 되어 지기 내가 들고 되어 걸 하다 미고 한 코바시디 뭐 되어 투도 공 차그래 이나양 거기 되어디 아니 되어 템보메 다고 유어도 거 남식이야 그 동네 좀 몰라 줄 야고 레고는 이모디 원기 한다를 야 고안이 이제 게임에 손에 게야 동네 영화 책으로 하시다 고 내가 되어 짐바를 때 이내 때도 되어 지 투여 말에 오 된대기 진행되라 내 사제스 아 체 직접으로 해서
Contaminated virtuous karmas bring about only temporary well-being, the temporary well-being found in heavenly realms and in human rebirth. These result from contaminated virtuous karmas. The contentment is not long-lasting. When transmigration comes, meeting with conditions that are afflicted minds, then again, births are precipitated in samsara, in the hell realms. The contentment that comes from contaminated virtuous karmas is only temporary. So the division within virtuous karmas into contaminated virtuous karmas and uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
아주 샤샤와이나 레 모마티기 레 여와 사제디 사발라 때네 아래 달래 미룰레 아니야 단도에 되지 야르타에 고비에 와서야 들보라 레 사제디 오게 제발 해서
Take us then, for example, and how it is for us in our paths, contaminated virtuous karmas have brought about the opportunity of a human birth wherein our situation may be further improved. But the occasion of the human birth for us is the result of contaminated virtuous karmas.
le sangme singe digi ta kwa kuran chin kwa le ke mo andar pe kwa le tarba che ta le zubra le sangme ki chi reso
Regarding uncontaminated virtuous karmas, these require no further birth in samsara. They are cause for liberation from samsara. Those are uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
ta ide ide ta maranzo nimanye susu tandage nedan tela samlo tang ta le kyo sa re le ti wa pa re 이 내가 치 먼저 반 대세는 내가 더 먼저 거시 전에 비 제대로 다 레게어 두고나 레게어 두에디 같이 두고 그랬으나 다 두디 대세 시시 좋아체 아니 꿀웅체 아니 무시체 아니 죽 어디 시 사회 관이 아니 개와 지도지 그러나 아니 개와 야고 차이를 해서
So, okay, then for us each day, it would be for us to evaluate our situation and see that here we choose to adopt virtues and to reject non-virtues. The division has been made. We've made an opening in this way. Then for virtues, how would they be accomplished? And they are accomplished through 4 features that would be complete in any action: the preparation, the refined intention, the actualization, and the conclusion. When these 4 are complete, then any virtue will be sound, in fact.
나도 빅벌 차시라고 있나 만화도 니만니만 빅벌 치든 다 단다 방법 좋아다 꿀lun다 무시다 죽셀 사람 통보치라 요 세상 먼저 빅벌 단다 단대내 땅 먼저 빅벌 또 채워 겨워지 또 추마요 이 요거에 기제디 단다 좋아 꿀lun 무시 조 죽숨도 이 빅벌 먼저 빅벌 치디 이 창결을 먼저 여와시도 이제 참 가고요. 제가 먼저 이거 또 쳐요. 여와 또 충어요. 그래서 시드니 얘기요. 그래서
And for us, each day in our activities, the ease with which we accumulate non-virtuous karmas follows from the ease with which we complete each of these components of any action: the preparation, the intention, the actualization, and the conclusion. All of these come about naturally and easily in cases of non-virtues. And for this reason, then, our propensity for non-virtues is greater than our propensity for any virtue. For these 4 aspects of any action are always complete for us in non-virtuous cases, and seldom ever complete for us in virtuous cases. For this reason, then, our propensity toward non-virtue.
세상 와서 때는 이거 진주 제가 있나요? 제 이거 진주로 저기 여러 대 있나요? 또 전부 잘 차고에 균세디 가르쳐 버렸으나 안도 조시디 상고 조와지 꿀lun지 무시시 죽숨과 상황인자 또 전부 차서 다시 또 전부 차로 이 개와 초들로 좋았다. 지시가 상해야 지라 먼저 그러면 봄이 요마로 봄에서 지가 상황 지라 깔래 가고 있어. 제가 어떤 충을 여기 와서
And take any non-virtuous karma, albeit a small one, it becomes of great significance because all 4 features of an action, the preparation, the intention, the actualization, and the conclusion of it, will be inevitably, naturally present in non-virtuous instances of action. But seldom is it so that in virtuous cases, all 4 are present. They usually are not all 4 present. And for this reason, then, our virtues are comparatively weak.
뭐야? 제가 때리다 개와 듣고 충어 이유가 이제 가서 완전 개와 지겨져서 다 가다 가실을 좋아야 보이죠. 그냥 꿀lun 마상도 가실을 꿀lun 좋아도 꿀lun 야고 유나야 무실은 야고랑 매죠. 야, 저다 뭐시 꿀루야 뭐 얘나야 주기 공화 매죠. 대대 저 코드 시간 마상와 일이 저도 꿀루다 뭐시 시간 마상은 아니 겨워디 또 전부 차 두고 말했어. 이 시간 상황이나 딱뭐 겨워 차또 전부 차다. 유로 서가 상황 차되었어. 재산 뒤도 아니 맞은 겨워디 아니 또 중화. 이거 봐. 저 규칙도 이 차이가 그래서
The virtuous impulse that is weaker by comparison is weaker for the reason that, take some instance of a virtuous action. For some individual, it will be natural to prepare for the virtuous action and to have refined their intention along with the action. But then the two additional components of the action, the actualization and the conclusion, are absent. Or for another, the preparation and the intention and the actualization are all present, yet lacking still is any conclusion. So long as all four of these required, so long as any of these four are missing in an action, it will not be as strong an action as it could be. And so then we wish for these four features of any action to be present, but when they are not, it is the very reason that our inclination toward virtue is comparatively weak.
그때 이메일 수주고 있다. 이만 지금 제 무슨 그 저거 지도서 맞다. 다제신 제가 있나? 다제 제가 배는 말한 적 유 수주 예배 약고 시험 제샤유 네 겨 제샤유 삼박이 수주 배겨 친구 제샤유 삼대야 겨지 아니 신주치네 따라 좋아 무시 굴릉 쭉 상도 야고 따라 야만은 지 굴릉 상금 말에 야만은 무시 상금 말에 야만은 좋아 뭐 상금 말에 제가 들리 마 상황인데 그것도 친구 차 두고 말해서
Then daily in physical, verbal, and mental activities, re-examine what you take to be a major event of virtue and great significance. We might think ordinarily, oh, I did right here, and this was indeed very virtuous of me. But then look to see whether, in fact, the preparation and the refined intention and the full actualization and then the conclusion and review are all present in this instance of virtue, and find that either the preparation is inadequate or the refined intention is missing, or the full actualization is missing, or the conclusion is. And so long as any of these are absent, then the full strength of the virtue is not fulfilled.
거의 파티나 이제 주요고 디버드 삼다나 저기 디버 친주만 제메 삼아줘 네 디버 제메 디버 친주만 제메 삼아 수준은 초와 유교 근데 디버직 삼다나 이거 디버 친주 이 삼대요 수 삼면 디버 친주만 삼에 삼대 여러 때 있는 양 디버디 그 친주 차량 전부 차또 전부 가르쳐 좋아하다 보는 거 뭐지 죽 상계로 상은 뭐 라시 또 전부 차도 세상 그 춘주 삼교들라야 그 첨부 차 보야디 저 불능무시 상황이다 그또 첨부 차 여와 또 첨부 위에 삼교들라 또 첨부 마차야디 그저 불능무시 그 차단하고 막 상황이다 그또 좀 쉬어두고 제가 딱 한다 왜 한게 겨와 지교도 또 첨부다 전부 춘주 차 마차 이것도 전부 춘주 차 마차서 해야지 딱 한다 저 불능무시 시가 여고 상교도나 한국 당신 또 전부 자야 돼. 뒷마상 또 충분 자기요. 네 근세들이 하고 싶어. 다 시험을 해서.
And if we examine a non-virtuous action, and how it will likely be the case that we'll think, oh, it was minor anyway. Oh, it was trivial anyway. It's just a small thing in any case. And when in fact it is very consequential, Why is it consequential when we think to ourselves, oh, it is only minor? And the reason is, naturally, all four of these features of the action will click right into place in non-virtuous instances. There will be the preparation and the intention and the actualization and the conclusion. These will all follow and do not or seldom do in virtuous cases. And we will nevertheless think to ourselves, oh, this is of great significance, virtuous, and of great significance, while in actuality, the preparation or the intention or the actualization or the conclusion will be wanting. And so then when we look to see, are we behaving virtuously or non-virtuously, and what is the measure of that virtue and non-virtue, we would find the framework here in the preliminary preparation and in the intention and the actualization and the conclusion. And when all four of these are present, then the action will be of great significance. So consider this carefully.
거의 딱 이제 계속 이마저는 겨치기 요한테 겨치기 요바들 저 보는 것이 되게 하고 상황이 지도해야 돼. 나냐네 내가 사고 와서 어디 치고랬어. 이걸로 삼는 땅을 말해. 그러면서 건배원도 뭐 딱딱 상주를 제가 이거는 또 피해요. 제가 먼저 이거 또 피해요나 아니 먼저 경험을 안 살아. 먼저 치면 제가 말하고 같이 용의 양도 그냥 손내를 fon도 제가 경험을 안 살아. 했어. 어디 드시냐고요. 그래서
That we do daily in virtuous activities complete each instance of virtue with these four features of full preparation and refined intention and actualization and finally conclusion, so that all are always present, and to strive to make all four features ever present in virtuous activity is a critical point in spiritual practice. Whereas the non-virtues, because of our familiarity with non-virtuous activities, are naturally always complete in these four features. And for that reason too, then the loss for us that results from non-virtuous actions is all but guaranteed, that we will find ourselves delivered into hell by the reason that these four features of non-virtuous action always fall right into place for us.
딱 디지털은 좀 장가제 시도 좋아서 보는다 무시다 쭉 장가 시제 동안 딱 디지털도 좀 좋아서 또 좋아가지고 좋아 최초 이나는 막 이거요 막 저게 최초 있잖아요. 그다음 차상 상대요. 좋아도 오면 소리 저게 최초 상포도나 아니 좋아도 차상이나 뒤뒤어 해서
These four preliminaries, refined intention, actualization, and the conclusion, these are the four, aren't they? And in the six preliminary rites, we find all that is contained in any preparation contained in these six preliminary rites, and there will be nothing left out. So then the six preliminary rites embrace our preliminary in these four.
아니 뭐 꿀ung도 시작했죠. 꿀ung도 빼면서 했죠. 꿀ung 빼래 나세 유익 꿀ung다 뒤지 꿀ung 이치를 이 나는 유익 꿀ung데 저도 냐네 치고 치투고 해서
Followed by the refined intention, extraordinarily significant. That refined intention may be divided into two kinds: the causal intention, the causal refined intention, and the temporal intention.
제가 꿀ung TV 다만 저기 빼는 한게 수수고 돼야게 자와지 그 돼야게 자와이나자 아니 자와 그러지 뭐 있나요? 다 하고 꿀ung 걸어 꿀ung 되면은 아니 진도 그걸로 게임 말해 아니 지혜를 대좀 사그래. 아니 지혜를 남 노벌 레글와 그다 디주가가 세야라야 해치고도 뭐 그런 그 해치부터 해서
In the causal intention for any person with any plan at all, whatever it might be, whether it's to travel or to do something else, the intention is indispensable. Without the intention, there can be no inclination, no desire to do the given thing, or there will be an ambivalence regarding doing that thing, or one will go about doing that thing incorrectly. To eliminate the possibility of these, then the exercise of the intention, intending.
다 단단한도 꼴롱 가르고요. 다 꼴롱 해치보이나다 단단한도 다 라면 먹는 지리요. 다 라면도 퇴선 거순 지리요. 그래서 다 지혜를 다 꼴롱 가르고래. 다 저거들을 다 꼴롱 가르고 꼴롱 해치보이나 꼴롱 가르고 다오래. 꼴롱 가르고래. 그 꼴롱 가르고래. 그 꼴롱 가르고래. 어이 저거들 해서
When a refined intention is required as it is, when it is considered to be as critical as it is, and when in education, in training, in stages along the path to enlightenment, which involves study and contemplation and cultivation, and when these hinge upon intention, how do we think about intention then? How do we think about causal intention, temporal intention? What kinds of intentions are these?
이제 다나와서 우리가 공부다 공부랍 지바이나 배수는 전부 공부랍 지바이나 아니 다 참주고 생기 심바 인지미지 공유하레스 아니 공부 링지 지바이나 아니 미중고 삼베스 바스 미중고 삼베스 바스 아니 공부 타마지나 아니 치마 아니 직파게 다 예송의 내가 살아 될지 삼로지 단다 삼로 땅 투바지 어 될지 고용지 심바지 예바라 보고요 해서
Along the stages on the path to awakening, intention is meant in the following ways. The intention of the most sensitive intelligence of the individual with that greatest store of merit is the intention to conjoin every action with the awakening mind, bodhicitta. For the individual of average sensitivity, it is to conjoin with every action the mind of renunciation. And for the individual of most limited sensitivity, the intention required is merely for actions to be informed by that thought, which is the thought to avoid birth in unfortunate realms.
제가 다 가르치는 거라서 다 나도 다들 남림을 lov좀 지도 라운다 신 현재 현재 동해다 차와 대화다 대화 지혜가 치도라 안에 네 산지 주고 먼저 토부고 두 삼바지게 맞으나 안에 산지 주고 먼저 토베 귤을 더 토고 말해서
And why is it that the intention must be so in the context of traveling the path to awakening? It is for the reason that in order to dispel the pain of both myself and all others, the pain of all sentient beings, and in order to endow with well-being myself and all sentient beings, I must achieve the state of omniscient Buddhahood. This is the intention required. Without this intention, activities will not become cause for the achievement of the ground of Buddhahood. If activities are not conjoined with a renunciatory mind, activities will not become cause for liberation from samsara.
치마 와다 디소다 공을 너무 두고 집에나 아니 치마에 숨게 내래 타르바시 귤을 좋아지 삼로 마다나 쳐를 두고 말해서
And later on, for the individual of least sensitivity, wishing to achieve heavenly rebirth and the fortune of human rebirth, when we speak of this level of sensitivity, unless the intention of this individual is to avoid birth in hell realms, their activities cannot be dharma.
나도 유삼 니만님하게 수수비 지금 삼로 땅가 냠내나 삼로 땅가 이나 맞아 삼로 나 뺐다 치마 그 얘기 있어 그나 들으러다 제 치마를 하게 된 얘기 삼바삼에 텐투야 시작하고요 맞아 또 고미요 말와 아주 그 텐투야 하고요 아주 그 꿀ung 뭔가 자자 그 슈치모 야제 야주 구주 세 디기 아니 지금 담다 아니 또 그렇다 아니 지금 하게 되게 도달잖아 삼로 걸때 모두 치마 대화토야 뭐 치마 원도 밤에 고반 토야 되게 삼로다 잘하게 이제 유유로와 제가 매주 잡아 아니 아주 그 내가 지려 봐가 쉬어를 또 두고요 말 쉬어를 좀 하고 이제 이걸 두고요 세단 얘가 저요 계속
Ordinarily, in our own thought processes on any given day, the tendency will certainly be to give no thought at all to subsequent lives whatsoever. Simply no thought is given to it. Or if any is given to it, consideration of subsequent lives will amount to no more than at most something like 10%, while the rest, 90% and more, will be continued preoccupation with one's own reputation and fame, and food and lodging, and this alone. And unless at the very minimum there is some consideration of future prospects, of heavenly rebirth, birth as a human being, unless this at a minimum is present, there is no dharma. Where there is no dharma, activities will be non-virtuous. So it is very dangerous.
oi 다 이제 잡아 만들 산다 다 꿀ung ombo rat 꿀ung 지주고요 그래서 ombo rat 꿀ung 지주도 잡아 장주 생기 심바 생기 꿀ung 지주고요 그래서 그다음에 꿀ung 지주도 이나 아니 달라 링 꿀ung 지주다 참아서
The refined intention, which is relevant to us, is the refined intention of the individual with the greatest sensitivity. That intention is to conjoin every action with the mind awakening, bodhicitta. And this is absolutely necessary. And when this mind, bodhicitta, is conjoined in any action, then that which is required for training in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment is present for us.
제가 자주 쓰는 그런 것들이 다 교육군들이 소위 랍사임바 그다음 교육군도 이제도 맞다 수속이 다 최다나 뺐다나 그들 차샤웨나 아무 최니시 지거를 최니시 제가 되게 가가 딱 최년바 최 삼바 고모 가르치 유나야 대 탐지 아니 자주 그 생기 심바 생기 소고 여러와 내가 자주 생기 심바 뭐 와다 tam 꿀웅디기 얘기 내 자와디기 제와디기 가가 아니 나 랑기 랑기는 아니 세디기 또그 tam좀 전달라 마이바 랑기 대어도 배치도 마이바 신 큰에 치도 신 랑을 신 간다 랑을 간다 간다 또는 뭐라도 소문 땅땅 지어와 랑라 아니 대화 보아다 동에 메디바다 아니 바게 찍다 삼로 망고저로 디 삼로 되게 찹들 디 파샤 디 찹들 신야샤 아니 신데라 답에 대화 되고 동에 메디바 디버 신 동에 배 단달 차로 대화 단달 토바 어디든지 치고 두 삼박 아니 삼박으로 삼보저로 어디든지 심바지 좋으나 아니 자기는 생기 심바세 어디든지 삼방으로 해서
The refined intention that conjoins the awakening mind with every action is the causal intention. I described the causal intention, didn't I? And so here in Dharma, at this particular moment, for instance, in an exchange in the Dharma, when we listen and contemplate and cultivate the mind awakening, the intention fit for this moment is to conjoin our every action with the awakening mind, bodhicitta. And when usually we think solely of ourselves, of what we do and the karmas that we accumulate, and when we think especially of ourselves so that we may gain fame, food, and lodging, when this is our self-interested preoccupation invariably, and when we are motivated to find for ourselves well-being and avoid for ourselves pain, at this moment, we will forget that and replace that with the sensitivity to others so that they may, right now, find their well-being, so they may now be parted from their pains. And this mind awakening, bodhicitta, is the intention suited for this moment.
아니 담보 다시 냠았어. 다시 냠을 보는 그런 죄. 아니 다래 다시 제외 보는 그런 죄야. 아니 다래 신 제벌지를 보는 그런 죄야. 그래서 뭐 무슨 그래서
In the spiritual practice of the great Kadampa adepts involved in their practice was to equalize self and other, and then to make an exchange between self and others, and then finally to cherish others more than themselves.
나 그런 죄다 되지. 아니 그런 죄 맞잖아. 아니 그 그게 자와디 bil 두고 매봐. 시대에 본도 시에서 자와디 bil 두고 말. 그런데 심바이나 그런 죄바이나 삼고 땅 수주고 그런데 죄바이나 아니 자와디 bil 두고요. 제가 이리 다 예버도 그런 죄 그거 요래서.
This then is the way to refine an intention when an intention is not refined in this way, then the activity itself will not become the cause for the realization of the project intended. No such intention, no cause for the achievement of the objective. And so then, to refine the intention in this way allows any activity to become the cause for the realization intended.
kulungdi ta chanju semji semba sen kandarta tanda dodo pa chanju sem korang tsini tone ke jen shuba ina semje tamje zobe sanje ji ko sanje gobar cha hi chitula ane rangla de top tuya nibaji ko do nibaji top je sanje ji ko wan top ko do hi chitula ne semje tamje dewalo ko be ji sanje ji ko wan top chao nya ba ta kele angi kele mata angi nyam su lang ba go di ta karle dile ta chanju sem se digi kulu digi semjuna chanju sem ji kulu ji simbas dile ji samata tuna ya bu ya resu.
The intention, that is, intention to conjoin every action with the awakening mind, bodhicitta. This describes, in short, what may be defined as bodhicitta, that is, the intention to place all sentient life on the Buddha ground. And in order to develop the capacity to place every sentient being on the Buddha ground, one must themselves first achieve Buddhahood for the capacity to deliver sentient beings to Buddha ground. Therefore, I myself am committed to achieving awakening to this end. This commitment and promise that then informs an actualized practice is what is meant in the intention that is bodhicitta conjoined to every action. And if you are able to think along these lines, that would be very excellent.
아니 텔리지 귤로 샤제 고바토로 귤로 로 차고 차에 치돌라 나 고kulung도 쩌고 사람 얘기 취니시 제바티 아니 베스 방게다 많이 찍었다 아주 세디게 나다 하나 까지 시쇼랑 마치기로 와 마디기 집에게 심제 탐제 아니 베 대화도 대마 지기 대치도 이 삼바치 kulung들이 세도 세다고 해서 쩌고 쩌스도 아다셈 오네 많이 나야 셈게 쇠 쥐마 체니 곰 아니 쥐마도 찍고 이곰 숨고 아니 쥐마 많이 버차 쥐마 많이 버차는 뭐네 잡으러 와 근데 또 집을 잘 해서
The intention that would be refined in this way, refined such that bodhicitta becomes conjoined to every activity, is the intention appropriate in an exchange in dharma around the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, so that the exchange in dharma about the given text might result in becoming very cause for the achievement of awakening Buddhahood, so that this activity does indeed become cause for the achievement of Buddhahood. We would refine our intention just so, and we would do so furthermore, recognizing the very kindness of our mother of this lifetime, who is and resembles all other sentient beings, it would be done for their welfare. This intention would be planted as a seed. And whereas at first this mind will not be authentic, it may be simulated so that after repeated simulation, it grows increasingly authentic to the point where it becomes real.
그런 딜레이션 선배이나 아니 산지 그것도 빌려 두고요. 두고 이제 다 그런 또 전부 차. 제가 뒤에도 맞다. 되게 그런 책이 하게 좋아들라. 뭐마 사 시스템에게 좋아 가리는 지고 다들 사 심박이 좋아 가리는 지고 뭐보다 사버 유럽이 좋아요 가리치네. 그래서 강가야 그런 것도 안에 배산지 고마도 빌려 더 쇼스. 또 조직스 하는 게 그런 게 좋고요. 그래서 그래서
But so what's that? Do check that the kunlan digi wangi and the leg hanga sangi ki sa
좀 사다.
lo.
그 뭐벌 되게 삼을 사버 주바 단다 제시마 엄마 제 차죠 가갈 아니 이게 겨와 가르치면 뭐벌 가르치기 유나자 단다 가르치기 제시하고 유나자 엄마 제사와 가가 아니 집에 신 심제 탐제 대화로 그것이도 이 산지 고마도 이 삼나 아니 그런 데 장주성 사바 살로 와
Bodhicitta conjoined to every action becomes the very cause for achievement of Buddhahood. And when bodhicitta is conjoined indeed to every action, then that underlying intention has become an extraordinarily powerful force. It is an extraordinarily powerful force that transforms every activity of all three times, whether activities of the past or occurring in the present or activities to come in the future. It transforms all of those to very causes for achieving Buddhahood. And this is bodhicitta conjoined to every action. This is the intention here.
사실 당무시 듣고론데 야고 유나 아니 다 제니바 가리었으나 무시디 야고 나와요. 듣고론데 야고 숙청부 야고 매나 무시 자와데 야고 유나 라와치라 요마 춘주 차다. 그래서 이제 개치지 가려서는 꿀ung 야고 여바이나 꿀ung 딜라 때니 아니 자무시디 뒤다고 치마 라와치부 야이가 그래서
Which leads to the second point, which is where the intention is sound, then there truly is hope for the actualization of that intention. But where the intention is not indeed sound, then there is no real hope, or only minimal hope that there will be found any actualization of it. So where the intention is sound, then we have good reason to expect the actualization of that intention.
뭐야 무시디 원래 타는 게 제인다 그 수sem나 그 같은 그 좋아게 그 장마 총수다 야고 총수다 삼거게 용야디 꿀ung들 시다 저 친구요 꿀ung디 야고 용도 무시디라 배드네스다 이런 거 요거레스 꿀ung디 장마 시라면은 무시가들 가서 제가 있나야 제조대한 시라는 이번 매조래라 야고 요약하고 그래서
Then from the intention, that later moment when one can review what one has done with great satisfaction and acknowledge this has been actualized. This is a pure event that happened. It's an extraordinary event that happened. That moment where all of that can be acknowledged depends very much upon the intention at the outset. With the sound intention at the outset, there will be an actualization of that intention, whatever the case may be, whatever the activity it is. Without the intention, for one, there will be little force in the actualization of it. And furthermore, there won't be any very great likelihood of it being fully realized. So then when the actualization is in developing bodhicitta, or the actualization is in meditation in emptiness, whatever the case may be, when the actual event is sustaining samadhi, so that that samadhi is clear and it is stable and it is of great intensity, these actual events of bodhicitta, meditating in emptiness, clear samadhi that is unmoving, these all depend upon the sound intention. And then the actual event, the actual activity, whether it's a minute's activity, an hour's activity, or a day-long activity, it will be continuously successful in strong dependence upon the intention for it to be so. Thus, the significance of the intention. And from an authentic intention, then the success in the actualization follows. So the explanation then of the actual event is just that, and it is followed by the conclusion. And the conclusion is the ensuring of completion so that the event's force might be further heightened so that it might be preserved too. This by the force of the conclusion.
삼성 라도 삼성 취주 차도를 매버 차도 제가 그 매버 마차와 마마라와 공도 배워 제디 준비 지원 해서
The action in conclusion is known as the dedication. The dedication, which follows the preparation that has been made, and then the refinement of the intention in accordance with bodhicitta that would be conjoined to any activity. which has informed then the actual activity of stabilized samadhi, of bodhicitta, of meditation in emptiness, all of which have been completed, and all of these that have been completed then by the dedication are again repossessed so that their force is not lost, so that it doesn't ever attenuate, so that it doesn't vanish, but instead is heightened again and again.
거의 다 리스피 창소나 아니 다 이 공부 시험나 신진다 교체유나 다 교어디 또 전부세 다 교어 또 전부 체유 삼반나신 전부 차야 다 리시디 창고를 해서
These are the four components of a virtuous action. These four, as I have described now. And for a virtuous action to be indeed a forceful, virtuous action, these four would be present and complete, and then one can say fairly, this that I did is significant and virtuous.
다 근데 이제 다 리시 간다 조어 고노시 죽시기 참외 개와치 예바이나 다 개와 또 전부 레스 좀 다디나네 그러나 단단한들 빼차샤외나 나는 취치 니시 제바 이 개와디 때 개와디를 또다 니시 제바 뭐 니시 치기 인상보 꿀웅디체 아 꿀웅디 예단 뭐시 퇴박이 야고시 니 얘네 삼박이 맞이버시 땡이 봐 슈처다 아니 라게 셈이다 꼭 바게 고미하게 자주고 셈도 좀 제일 나고시 봄 아니 봄사도 이게 배들이 고미하라도 산데 가고 뭐하지 오 된대지 제바 이나 아니 다고 배마시 그 개와도 또 첨부 아니 그다 간다 라게 개와 가리 제바나시 또 첨부지 차와 찍제 아니 이바들라 다 가르치그래서나 다나서 드링디 지다들선다 꿀웅 치주센도 꿀웅 치주지 해치버려서 이거 같아요. 그러다 꿀웅 그도이네 꿀웅 쬐셔마 내가 랑이 내가 고추고 예외나 배나 도바지 쬐니도 다다가 쬐니시 저 자로 아니야 뭐 몰람도 도바도 위나요 도바도 위에서 뭐 꿀웅 쬐야 아니 수수루야 쪼고 집어도 당기 삼나야 꿀웅도 쪼고 수준 또는 발진 쪽에 냠내 가르치는 걸로 꿀웅도 이해나 아니 그 냠내 자산 상보하고 차려로 와 그다음 꿀웅도 개첨부를 해서
So then these four components of the preliminary, the refined intention, the actualization, and the dedication and conclusion would be complete. When these four are complete, the virtuous activity is indeed forceful. And here, for instance, in the exchange of dharma, just now, the virtue accumulated in the exchange is accumulated as it has been, determined by the intention at the outset, which was to engage in the exchange of dharma. This intention then made stable a mind in its studies, recalling the lessons in the study with meditative stability. Meanwhile, this very activity remained conjoined to bodhicitta. And then in review, one can well say, I did cultivate this mind in this way, in this activity, and in this way, the virtuous activity is forceful. Here is an instance of our exchange in this lecture, the success and force of which depends upon the intention. But hereafter now, with this as merely illustrative, apply the very same four components to every activity that you undertake. Here we have in our exchange fulfilled these four, but then you hereafter in everything you do in your prayers and whatever other activities you engage in, giving charitably to others, and however else you perfect the six paramitas, in every case, make those activities complete with these four components.
Oh yeah, that's how you know the government says Sajiki, Gyawata, Sameki, Gyawa, Keper Shedu, that's Sajiki, Gyawadi, or other Sajiki, Gyawadi, or Negapo. Jibu Gyawa Finger Rede, Inayam Kogi, under Yan, Pechel, Tungil Guru, Same Devati, Omel Gureyo Mare, or Gyawa Sabati, Omel Guru Mares, or Kadina, Gyawa Net, that Jodi Gyawa Chayala, the Kulung to Jawa Resus.
Earlier, I distinguished between the contaminated virtuous karma and the uncontaminated virtuous karma, and pointed out that the contaminated virtuous karma is good for projecting one into a future experience of a temporary contentment and well-being, but that state of well-being will not be long-lasting, but will inevitably change. Whereas the uncontaminated virtuous karma is stable and unchanging, and the realization of its result depends very strongly upon the intention.
Oh yeah, Chesan today in this one, that's Sajik Sabe, Sajik Le Gyawa Saba, Tigi, the Milu Pets, Cotation, Tarangandola, you won't go on Milutoba Tea, Namshi Tenham, Naba, Milu Department, Chedu, Chen Milu Chi, Gyawa Lemoro, Gyawa Lemon, Chido, Chidi, and Milu de Tordua, Okanda Masedo, Tamasedo, that Dinajin Anado, Geveto Michunga, Saga, you no longer in Bainaya, and Napshi cook to younger day and Namji Pasedo. And it's a packet, Rangi Saga in the bed that said to my wood, Kumishawa in a Nimajima home there. And it's another packet, Suzuta, Milu Tobi tail, the Rangi Pama Tegre, 괜히 책을 보고 책을 채우면 타마타마야 강가 제도도 아무튼 책을 아주 이제 먼저 저거 요즘 망고 좀 그래 이내 타마야 제도도 아무도 많이 개발내는 숨보시라는 루이드베 하장 따서부터 다고 얘기했더니 이만치 아니 간에 치료도 제가 그 사직을 내생이 먼저 먼저 유언해 보신 동의지 뭘 봐. 교류는 지나 그 사직을 냈다 그래서 너무 참
Accumulated contaminated virtuous karmas have resulted for us, for instance, now in birth as human beings. This, as example and illustration, is the easiest to understand, that the present human body is had by the force of contaminated virtuous karmas. And the human life and the human body, in the end, is lost to us. In the end, we die, are parted from this human body, and forced again into yet another birth. This is the inevitable loss of the human body and the exhaustion of whatever it is we've accumulated with it. Wealth, And whatever else it is we've accumulated in our lifetime, when we die, is entirely lost to us. Even if it were that we managed to heap together great wealth that resembled a mountain of wealth and success, this too in the end collapses and vanishes entirely. And all of our associations and friendships, our family life with parents, our friendships, we are all collected together, meeting with friends and family presently. And as we continue to live, we take great care to continue to protect and preserve our lives, to preserve our human lives, but nevertheless and inevitably, in the end, this all changes and all is lost. And it is so because these are consequences of contaminated virtuous karmas.
That's how make lay, for my say, we have head, my say, unless it was over the lot, the short, the yoma, some make legs, some coach, Yokadunia, but George, which a message, which a mirror, which a poya, a petty race. Not that much some make lady side, go to what is what they drink the shafts.
Whereas uncontaminated virtuous karmas only ever increase. There is never any exhausting uncontaminated virtuous karmas. They are inexhaustible. They can never be lost. And throughout lifetimes, and then again, generations, no matter the time, they are only preserved and only ever increased. And so for that reason, we begin now to strive in the accumulation of uncontaminated virtuous karmas, and we will conclude here.
If
there are any doubts now in a matter of philosophical dialectic, raise those doubts. Now, if you've got any questions, let's hear them. But if you don't, then we can conclude with a very deliberate closing prayer.
Question? uh, uh, the the contaminated virtuous karma. And did you say that when our body dies, that karma will disappear too? I thought any of the karma will continue.
다들 사실 내 송으로 다들 아니 치퍼 얘기 두 봤네 디야 사실 내 디야 저로 그래 디야 디 잡을 거서 디르베
사실 레드로 이것도 다가 대기만 사실 요거 요레스 사실 레드도 한번 대화 두개가 줄을 뚫네 양 동해를 두고도 제가 그 줄을 그래 안 들려래 다 치프로도 잠바 아 사실 사벌레 망체 저두고 이나 가지 하기로 내 지금 하기로 내 하와이요 이내 그 사실 레드도 때문에 사메 레드는 꼭 가지네 봐 찜프라요 말이야 페이퍼 어디 제발 요래서
근데 다들 레 제메 레 펼치오 레 추스메 로아 데 는 말에
그것마다 딱
데
간다
레기 좀
코스 계속 때들도 레기서 근데 치료도 zamang도 답변은 아주 레 미디어로 찾아오면 레디 파 다음에는 심을 기록으로 와 이나시 사제기 레디야 파 심을 배틀 세디스 가르도 우리가 가르고 말다 이내 그 유어도 쓰기래 유어 사제를 유어도 아이가 꼭 유어도 유어도 이내 세디 제부제도 류디 제부제도 레디 그만 냠도 제부자고 되게 말해서
사제기레 사르교 된저기 왕기 아니 제부디 민 아니 용로아 아니 민네 멤버디 교로죠 조조레
말 메모 줘도 고민 사들 사제 레디 도도 봐서 배는 가서 밀릴래 뭐 말았지 왜 이걸 문제지 영화 소스는 됐어도 이걸 문제도 안 톱스나 그 사제 레디 조사로 와 조사 다 정말 밀리톱 쇼도 밀리톱 사서나 사제 레디 조사 다 사메 레디나 그래 좋아요 말해서 소사
그래서 소부터 The contaminated virtuous karmas do not remain, they change when they have as consequence a, a given result. With the realization of that result, the contaminated virtuous karma is exhausted. So for the most part, in a lifetime that is as it is a human lifetime, as it is a human lifetime, it is the result of a contaminated virtuous karma. With the very realization of the human life, that contaminated virtuous karma is exhausted. It isn't stable, it cannot be long-lasting. So that at death, then, many of these accumulated virtuous karmas have been exhausted by the realization of their result. There are some contaminated virtuous karmas that may pass through a transmigration, but the majority do not. And so it resembles the case where you pray to become wealthy and become wealthy. And then the force of the prayer then is lost in its realization. And if you prayed for a human rebirth and were reborn a human being, then the force of that particular prayer is in the realization exhausted.
그러니까 거기 사직이 레드도 그런 게 살 찍고 레드 제부도 좀 사나? 그냥 요거는 제부 부여야 되게 해요 말. 다음에 레드 거요 이제 개발요 말. 안되는데 제부 찍 모듈이 또 돼야 되는 거 알아. 제가 다음에 레드 또 체. 그래서
For any contaminated virtuous karma, once, any single time, its respective result has been realized, it cannot again be re-realized. That means it occurs once and afterwards is exhausted. But it isn't the case for uncontaminated virtuous karmas that they ripen but once. Theirs is a continuous and unending consequence.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Just briefly, if you could give some examples of contaminated virtuous karmas. In my mind, I'm considering them things like offering food to the poor where it's contaminated with both the desire for the poor to be well fed, that's good, but then also a little bit mixed in, like, I want people to know that I did that, donating so that your name ends up on a plaque somewhere where people can see. Is that contaminated virtuous karma? Just some examples of contaminated would be helpful. Thank you.
아니 사직이 레기 빼가시 아니 족 나오로나 pena inge goyala 아니 젬바 땅디 짬발라 khate 아니 레바 갭네 라 예 젬바 땅네 아니 밍침보 차용 삼베 사모디 코르나 데네 사직이래 양메나 틱 가르레데 요레람나 아니 젬바 땅네 아니 조코 갭 레오요 라 아니 바로 고미데 야 레바 갭네 라 따치단데 jimba tangne ani mingchimbo chawala rewa gyamne lakse like tat peka she ani godewi gi peka she ani sungnanda.
빼치랑 숨겨대 빼요.
Your own examples are quite good.
사직 빼. 그것보다 아니 가지고 보는 마치 겹치들이 네 삼액스마다 랑이 때도 되죠 매봐. 개체주직 때도 자기는 직 랑이 때도 되죠 매봐. 랑을 매봐. 배당도 진바땅에 더 쳐 샤샤위나 진바땅에 그 진바땅에 아니 지금 하게 지금 담이요 내서 나는 저 개변이야 근데 그 저와 매봐. 아니 저 니니버들라 아니 직접 하루 걸 내가 그 편에서도 많이 받아 랑이 집었다고 들을 때는 거기 내가 그 이게 세워 마세 아니 콜레야 간다다 집에 제부들 때는 별로 좀 타이어 용아 이제 삼모타도 어 뒤저 간다다 사직이 나도 그래서 사직이 개와는 그걸 했어.
Your example is a good example. The important point must be that the action is not at all motivated by personal investment, that there be no connection at all with one's own personal pursuit of satisfaction and well-being, that in an act of generosity, there be no wish for acknowledgement or to find personal advantage, that in an instance of generosity. A second point regarding an instance of generosity, it would be a contaminated virtuous karma of charitable giving if the objective were merely to temporarily assist that person through the generosity. For that, if the motivation were to only dispel temporarily the pain experienced by that person, it would be contaminated. But if the intention were to bring about, through the instance of generosity, the full abundance of resources for that person, that would make for an uncontaminated virtuous karma.
아니 사직이 꾸는 거는 필요하다. 사면이 꾸는 거는 필요하니 뭐지? 어떤 주체를 조사해서
And for this very same resemblant meaning, in the same sense, giving a single flower, one person may give the very same single flower and another only a single flower, all giving just one flower. But in giving a flower, in one case will be an instance of contaminated virtuous karma, determined by the intention. Yet giving the same, merely one flower, another may be engaged in a virtuous karma that is uncontaminated, and the difference between the two is significant.
강에 랑게다 지바탄 쇼바 퓨 가리체바 이나디 사메 퓨르 로토그레스 다 자주 쓴지 마심바게 네 꾸룽심바 가리스미 요바이나야 사지 꾸룽심바 코나 바코데 오세 사모타나 티툰데 요아레스.
But in short, just to make it very accessible, wherever bodhicitta is conjoined in the action of generous giving, making offerings, whatever the case, the virtue is an uncontaminated virtue. Wherever bodhicitta is not yet conjoined in the action, it is yet contaminated virtuous karma. So put concisely, that's the point. Are there any others? And then, was that clear?
Always in the same line of thinking, or the answers that we give in question answers. Even if I am not clear about my intentions, even if I'm not, even if in the end I will offer contaminated karma, it still may be true that whoever even if my virtue is not pure or entirely clear, there's still benefit received as a result of the effort. Is that not true? Something is gained at least by the recipient of the offering, if not myself at all.
The sum of sujet ki tiwa shua dan ane lindep nawa de dan ane tuen chene ane ta khete nga yinba yina ane gewa dan mi gewe ki khebar de tata ane sak tsubo dinde ane she de me na yang jimba tang ne nge jimba tang we gewa de sakche ki gewa re te parobo me la khepsan ti yang ragre de la khepar short drogi marwa tati nge ge ngarang ki gewa di sa me ki gewa ane dinde sa me na yang parobo me de la ane khepsan dang pinto dinde yore wa jezan di sunju gi wangi parobo me de la ane khepsan top drogi wa nimbapo de la khepsan yore wa sakche gi le yenaya parobo
yoro, te siano dewa yoro, pena nga go 사직 레일 때는 시행을 대화 중앙 요를 나오는 대화 중앙 요거다 다 세버 다리 시행 뭐하지 그래서 나도 견한다 그 시대 얘기 저지 요도 사직 개월 이제 3회 개월 말이야 생각해서 얘한테 보송 다 식송
That, sure, it's true that from a contaminated virtuous karma, one may themselves find some satisfaction and another two may gain from it. That goes without saying. That's of course and certainly the case. Leave that aside. And for me, what I detect mostly is, well, albeit my actions yet aren't uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
대인은 저 링버도 사교dik 사직 개월 대인이 파스타 3회 개월 사로 시스니라가 있어
And if that's so, then if up to this moment your virtues have been contaminated virtuous karmas, let it be that from this moment forward they become uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
나도 최시에 최니시제 나야고 차오래서
And should that happen, then this moment of dharma exchange has realized its purpose.
다 사메기 개와되기 아니 저부터 세바 매바래 사제기 개와기 되고 세바 여바래 그래서 개발 심벌을 해서
And that's because that is because the uncontaminated virtuous karma's result remains evermore inexhaustible, whereas the contaminated virtuous karma's result will be eventually exhausted.
다들 먼저 말하는 걸 봐. 너들이 더 막에 다들 말하면 된다. 매번 제가 제마다 꾸도 상보되는 꾸도 상보되는 대신 됐어. 말하는 것도 왔다. 제가 보고다 꾸도 상보고 말하면 제가 나시 나양 그냥시 자기 이해스는 말하면 제가 왔어. 어디 잡고야 된다디. 나 자주 센지 생각 말하면 잡 투야 치도 어디 말하면 누구야 해서
In a moment, we will conclude with closing prayers, won't we? And when we do, we will recite these very verses, just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra do realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. And meant here is that, just as Manjushri and Samantabhadra conjoined every activity with their bodhicitta, so will I, to make them uncontaminated virtuous karmas.
나는 꿀릉토네 죄여나 야보라 꿀릉토네 죄면나야 아니 뭐 지도 창주 선바도 저거 지들 거 하나씩 마야 되게 뭐 투어쇼 뭐 규지 있으면 그런 게도 그다음에 고 개와 지게 되게 창주 선비 심보 용해야 된다 뭐 지게 그래서
And if already from the outset the intention was refined already in this way, then that is excellent. If it has not yet been refined in this way, that is treated in the verses themselves, so that the virtuous actions become, by virtue of the force of Samantabhadra and Manjushri, just as they did, conjoined with the awakening mind, bodhicitta. So should we recite closing prayers then?
니만찌기 고수를 좁아 가리지 제도가 있는 이게 계획 내사야 계획 내사와 대양 아니 그 사명이 원래 도투야 어디 리즈는 최시에 봐서도 최시 이제 시에 봐 년백이 계획 둘을 때네 아니 라기 그라 레 미디어 가져이나 다 들어와서 레 계획 초 패투야 아니 딜러 때문에 아니 지금 하나도 라미 삼도 찾아 두투야 지금 예매 디지 찾아 수를 삼아가지고 두투야 근데 영화 뭐는 치고 자고 해서
We didn't get into the actual text, the great treatise, today. We remained in our consideration of what are preliminary remarks to the treatise, in order that what we do actually, physically, verbally, mentally, whatever we do actually, so that those actions might authentically become dharma, so that we might actually accumulate virtues. And furthermore, that our virtues might be transformed into uncontaminated virtuous karmas, so that through these remarks we might, in an exchange in dharma and in the virtue accumulated by, through the exchange, purify non-virtues and make virtues bring about the benefits that follow from all virtues. And so that here in our closing prayers, we might realize our hopes, whatever they are, and live long lives and be well. Lome mare gi jong ro wa yi nam re ge we wang bu re ne gi derma sumbe zera kundu ya jambe yang ge se we je zum ne tembe rimba kunzang lam gi jo ni ne ro be ge na ni je jo rangi ji jin to be lam gi ne shu ra se we jang we tab ge Rove yige mba seje ne gewe temba yunding zingirich. Temba rinche choge matyabam kyabgyan yambar gyube chode ne. Yingje chenpo yira gyobayi pende terde sewar jebar sho. Seje gewe mekyon chebe le ju janju lamgi rinpe gyam. Hadu namge yila bede shin, gewe zeba rindu gyongirji. Lamza drube dungin rukje jin, gege seje medam emengun. Tera kundu gewe nabayi, namda jada jabar ngirjirji. Lamza tiba jila seju je, tujin rula tabati. Bude namge kadın rojeje, taji gyato chugu gyabgyurgashi. Even from my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my life's mandrushi. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity, make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dāgye jīnyē sābē jēwā dē, tēnā rōwā gōnlā kāmpēndōng, chē parā chē tsū lō sāng rāpa yī, tēmbē nīmbō rīngyū sē jē shō, kāng rī rāwē kōrwē jīngkāng dē, pēndāng dē wā mā lū zhōng, chē rē sē wāng tēn tsēng gyā sō yī, shā bē sē tē parā tū tēn gyū rū chī. Jambe bawo jitare kemba kundu zambo deyan de shente Teda kungi jesu dalo chir Gewa deda tamche rabdu Tuzun shepe gewa tamche gir Ngowa kanla chodu ngapa de Dagi gewe tawa dikun kyang Zambo cheche rabdu ngawar gir Chanchu senchu rinpoche ma ke panam ke girchi kewa nyapa mepa yang kone kondu pehoy. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lozan Japa to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful, generous, and Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave mantra Shri and Samantha Matra do realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with a dedication praised as the best by the victorious those gone ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Thank you.